Whenever you go to fixed fee, you align up with the client. The client wants the case over, the attorney wants the case over, they want to earn the fee. So there's something magical that happens when you're aligned with your client. Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share how we have built our family law practice from 0 to 25 plus attorneys and 15 million in revenue, all in the past 10 years. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working, with hopes that you can take that and you can recontextualize that for your practice and shorten your success curve. And we're back with Tom Hartin again this week. We're following Tom as he is starting his family law practice from scratch. And today, to give everyone some context here, today is August the 14th. We're probably, Tom, 6 or 7 episodes in to following you from absolute startup with nothing to where you are today, where you are now launched 2 weeks into it. So let's start by giving a little bit of an update as to where your practice has been over the past first 2 weeks of your journey here.
Sure. So office is officially up and running, which is great. Website has been up and running for a couple months now, but yeah, like you said, my official launch was just about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm starting to get some traction on the organic front, meaning, like in certain towns on Long Island, if you were to Google like divorce lawyer near me, I'm popping up. In some towns, I'm popping up in the number 1 spot. Other towns, like, the further away you get, then I'm in like the number 2 or the number 3 spot. So I've had a couple calls trickle in from that alone. And then just really starting on Monday this week, I have started running Google ads. And like everything that has been, there's been a bit of a learning curve there. So I think my ads for some reason must have started running. I think on my website, I say I serve all of Long Island and New York City, which eventually I plan to do. Right now, I'm a little more focused in like the county that I'm in, Nassau County, or the adjacent county to the east, which is Suffolk County. So yesterday, my phone was ringing off the hook from the Google ads, but it wasn't exactly the type of leads I was hoping for. Again, all part of the learning curve. So for example, I got one call from a gentleman who kind of just picked up the phone and started going right into his story. It was like a child custody issue. And I waited until about 10 minutes into the phone call, unfortunately, to ask him where he's located, which county this is in, because I just assumed like all the calls I had gotten previously before I was running the ads were all local. There was no other way to find me. And then I found out he was located in the Bronx, which is I'm just not taking cases there yet. It's too far, and I'm not like up on the local rules in New York City yet, mostly focused on my county. So had to unfortunately tell him, hey, sorry, something must be going wrong with my Google ads. Apologies for wasting 10 minutes. He didn't care at all. I think he was just happy to have someone to talk to.
You got to talk to a lawyer. That's probably not easy to do. Sure.
So there was that phone call, and then like 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Someone asked if I had an attorney that spoke Spanish. Unfortunately, I'm the only attorney, and I don't speak Spanish, so I had to tell him no. I don't think there's a way to correct that one. I think that's just one of those you have to chalk up to a loss. Then I got another call.
One of those apps. You can say, I can talk through an app. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Or just, I don't know, maybe for one of my first hires, it would be good to hire someone with that speaks both languages, which is, it's common in my area. So, and then another call from someone in Manhattan, and then another call, somebody asking if I did landlord-tenant issues. So I told them no. So I got probably all 4 of those phone calls within like a 2 or 3 hour span. So then I reached back out to a person that handles my website and content marketing, and was just like, hey, we need to readjust these ads. And I think what he did is put an exclusion in like the 5 boroughs in New York City. Mm-hmm. So I shouldn't get any more calls coming from the Bronx or Manhattan. Again, I think person asking if I speak Spanish, chalk that one up to a loss. I don't know what happened with that landlord-tenant case. That's probably just someone who didn't read the ad at all and just clicked it. So again, I don't know that there's much to do there, but all fun stuff. Part of learning how to run ads, and how to attract the right people.
So when you called him back, he tightened up the geographic area that your ads are displaying on paid search, right? Okay. Yep. Got it. And I'm assuming all of those calls yesterday came from your paid search ads, not from your map listings?
I assume so. It's definitely the two that were outside of my county. There's no way I'm popping up on the maps there. So those
Okay.
two definitely came from the ads. The people who asked if I handled landlord-tenant issues or if I spoke Spanish. They just called and like asked that question, and I said no. So I actually didn't ask where they were located. So I guess
Okay.
no way to know for sure. But I don't know. Given that I just started running ads and I had all those phone calls just flooding in, I'll assume that they were ad related.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So what is your budget that you've targeted for your paid search spend?
Yeah, so I'm starting off for the first month. In my head, I'll probably stick with this for 3 months unless I really need to adjust at $1,500 a month. I think when you start running Google ads, Google gives you a credit. I think I had like $1,000 credit. So for the first 3 months, figure I'll put like $3,500 towards the ads, and then I don't know, see if I need to adjust that. I might need to adjust that upwards for a bit, and then the more I start just organically growing, eventually I'll need to adjust that down. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, so are you doing anything else right now to attract new clients? Anything that's networking related or anything like that?
I'm not. It's really all, I think right now I'm putting all my eggs in the basket of the internet.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a nice basket to be in. So.
Yeah, right. We'll see if I don't know if I need to start figuring out some other ways to market, but I don't know. Like I said, probably give it a month or two of web-based marketing and see how it goes.
Okay. And do you have a unique phone number so you can trace the calls?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So how did you bucket out those phone numbers? I mean, how many do you have, and kind of how are you parsing them out?
Wait, sorry. Maybe I misunderstood the question. What do you mean by that? Do I have a unique
do you have a unique phone number for your paid search ads at all? Does your
no, I don't
dynamically change that? I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way you can dig in a little bit more with more granularity to find out where your calls are coming from. It'd be interesting to know.
No, I don't at this point. I wonder if Paul, that's guy that handles my marketing, if he would be able to trace that somehow. But no, I don't. It's all one business number. I could ask, and for now it will be easy to tell based on location. Like if someone from like Western Nassau or Eastern Suffolk calls me, I know I'm not in the maps there, so it probably would be easy to assume correctly that that's a result of the ads. If someone calls from South Shore, Nassau County, I guess it could go either way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what's the best way to figure that out.
That's probably a down the road thing as you start to get more momentum, you get more resources to do that. Because like our firm's got hundreds of phone numbers that we track different sources and that sort of thing, so we know where to put our marketing dollars at. But good. No, it sounds like a really, really interesting start to your paid search spending journey. To get 4 calls back to back to back, that must have been kind of fun. I had that phone ring the first time. Were you nervous?
No, I've fielded a few phone calls at this point. Actually, I've had a few other contacts even before I started running ads.
Okay.
And I really like just people asking for advice, and I think I have a couple people that could wind up being clients. I don't know. I guess we didn't talk about that yet, but I'm happy to. I had 2 people reach out. So there was this one. I don't know how much details I can give without breaching some sort of confidentiality. But anyway, this woman called and she was and this seemed like such a good first case to take in. I would guess she was like somewhere in her 50s because she had just saying that because she had 2 kids and they were both in like their early to mid 20s, and she said just things aren't working out with her husband anymore. And so I spoke to her on the phone for like 20 minutes, and the way the phone call ended was, I asked, is this going to be contested or uncontested? Like, how is your husband reacting? And she said she hadn't even broke the news to him yet. And I was like, oh, okay, so you don't even know. She was asking about pricing, so that's why I asked, trying to figure out how contentious this will be. So she said she was going to break the news to him tonight, and she was going to call me back in the morning. So I hadn't heard from her that morning, so I called her later that day, and I left a message on her answering machine just saying, hey, this is Tom Hartin from Hartin Family Law. Just wanted to check in and see how everything was going. Please give me a call back. Nothing too detailed. But then I hung up the phone and I was like, oh my God, what if this is like an answering machine? Right, what if she called from like a home number? So I started like panicking. She didn't call back. So I think I spoke to her on Wednesday. I tried calling her back Thursday. I didn't try again Friday. Then I called again Monday, and I was like, let me give this one more shot. I don't know what's the right amount of times to call somebody back, but whatever. I figured I would over try rather than under try. She did answer Monday, and she said that she decided, she broke the news to him. They had a long chat. She was going to give him one more chance, but that this had happened multiple times in the past. So she said, wait and see how things go. But if things do go south, which she's, in her words, she said she thinks they will, that she would definitely reach back out to me, that she, enjoyed talking to me and appreciated my help.
Oh, I'm impressed, Tom, with your follow-up. That's good. I love that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I still haven't figured what the right number is there, but luckily she picked up that time. I don't know if I would have called again after 2 messages. I probably should. And then I had another guy say that, he has a 13-year-old daughter, and just over the last week, his daughter decided that she only wants to be with the mom, and that so this was his ex-wife, obviously, and she had served him papers saying to release all custody. And he was like, I'm inclined to sign them. And I was taken aback. I was like, don't sign that without having an attorney review it. Mm-hmm. And I was, on a personal level, kids, 13-year-old, this just happened a week ago. It's your 13-year-old daughter. I have kids, they're younger, but we all know kids go through crazy phases. Maybe a year from now, or even a few months from now, she'll completely get in a fight with her mom and completely change her mind. You don't want to give up all custody. And he was like, well, she said she has these papers and she's going to serve me with them. And I was like, let her serve you then. I don't know. That was my advice. And so, yeah, he too, so when we hung up the phone, he specifically asked me for my name again and my phone number. And so I don't know, I guess if she does wind up serving him with something, he'll call me too. So I have a couple people on the hook, so to speak, but nothing paid yet, I guess. More importantly.
Yeah. Okay. So the marketer in me wants to ask you, did you get their email addresses, and have you thought about setting up an autoresponder just to send them valuable, not weeks up, a good value?
I did not get the email address of that second person. Okay. I should have. That was a quick 2-minute telephone call, but that's a good point. I have his telephone number. I don't have his email address. The first one, the woman, I did actually ask her for her email address, and she gave it to me, but she warned me that she pretty much never checks it.
Yeah.
So
a shockingly high percentage of clients who come to see us who don't retain us that later do come off of our email list. Mm-hmm. And we have an email list where they'll just get periodic, once every couple 3 or 4 weeks or so, some sort of cadence like that, where they'll get an email from us that's not hire us sort of stuff, but it's positive, encouraging sort of stuff, just to more than anything to remind them that we're there to serve them if they ever need us, sort of stuff. You'll get people that'll come 2 years, 3 years later.
Yeah, it's a good point. 2 things I know now to ask up front: where are you located, and what is your email address?
Yeah. Good. All right, you're learning some fun stuff your first week out, so I'm excited to see where you're going to be in a month from now when you let that ad campaign get going. So was there other stuff you wanted to chat through today?
Yeah. So I think last time we spoke, we kind of ended talking about attorney compensation. And I think you said you wanted to dig into some numbers before we got into the nitty gritty, because I guess you didn't have them on the top of your head. So I think it would be cool to talk about an adjusted hourly rate, and how many cases does your average attorney handle at once, right? So I think on an hourly model, those numbers are super easy to pull out, right? If if someone's billing by the hour, you can, at the end of the case, their billing rate is $250 an hour, and they spent $10,000 on the case. You can pretty easily figure out how many hours they spent on the case, right? But in the fixed fee model, I don't know. I guess that becomes a little tougher. So I'm curious. Well, I guess 4 questions, but I think the first one we already kind of touched on, what's the average cost per case? I think it was just under 10 grand, but I think we could probably use 10,000 as an easy round number.
Yeah.
And then on that, after that, what's an adjusted hourly rate for the attorney? So I guess the parallel to that question is, how much time does the attorney spend on that case? Mm-hmm. Kind of flip side to the same question. And then the other question, how many active cases does the average attorney handle at once? And then also, I guess in terms of the comp end, if you're willing to share this information, how is attorney pay structured? Do they get a certain percentage of cases that they handle in a year? So if an attorney handles $1 million, would they get paid 40% of that, or are they paid a fixed amount?
Yeah. Okay. So those are a lot of great questions.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, there's books that can be written on some of the stuff you're asking. So that's good. So first,
Yeah.
let me just kind of back up, Tom. And what you're driving at is you're trying to get some sense. My guess here, Tom, is that you're trying to get some sense as to what expectations could be on a fixed fee. You're basically, what would your hourly rate be on a fixed fee model?
Yeah, I got to the attorney comp question eventually, but yeah, I think you're right. Probably the two most important things I'm asking for now, right? I don't have employees or any attorneys working for me. Yeah, and what you just said, and on top of that, like how many cases could someone handle at once, right? So if let's say my ads next month, my organic grows and the ads start blowing up and I start taking in, 5 to 10 cases a month. After how many months am I going to be like, whoops, I took on too much?
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a lot of data on this. I'm happy to share all that I can remember with you as you look to analyze this. So right now we've got around 27 or 28 practicing attorneys. And so this data is coming from that data set. Now, not all of those attorneys are practicing at the same level. We have 2 managing partners who have a reduced caseload. So take that into account. We've got a number of associates in there, I want to say 4 to 5, that don't really have any of their own cases, and they only just support senior associates and partners and senior partners. So the way our structure works is we have law clerks and we have a first-time associates, generally speaking, who don't really have their own caseload. Maybe they have a few cases, smaller cases, easier cases, that sort of thing, but they're more than anything, they're supporting senior associates, which is the next level up, and partners, which is the level above that. Then there's senior partners above those folks, and then there's 2 managing partners. So that's our structure. So this data is coming from all of them, and I can kind of condense it down and give you some averages that you can use to kind of gauge for yourself as to where you might be. If I made you quote the average in our firm, this would pretty much apply. So the average case value that they pay over the lifetime of the case is just under 10 grand in our firm. And that brings in cases that are $450 coaching hours to full-blown 3-stage representation divorce cases that could be a total fee of 50 grand, let's say. Okay. So it really just smashes all of that into one number to give you something to work with. Okay. The average attorney in our firm, so taking out the associates, and certainly not the clerks, but taking out the associates, the average attorney in our firm collects $55,000 a month, in that ballpark. We have one attorney that's basically at $100,000 a month, and we have some that are certainly lower than 55. But if you average it together, that's what they're doing. If you took a typical, you can do the math on the hourly rate for that. So I'll just do quick and dirty math with you here. So if you've got 4.3 weeks in a month, let's just go with 19 days in a month. Not really. It gives you a few vacation days and some days off. So if there's 19 working days in a month and you're collecting $55,000, divide that by 19, that gets you $2,900 a day. Divide that by 8 hours in a day, that's $361 an hour. Now, it's very difficult to actually bill 300 or 8 hours in a day. That's really, really tough because you've got other things going on. So
right.
My reasonable sense of it is that you could go with like 6.5, and that'd be the number of hours someone working an 8-hour day. And so 55,000, divide that by, what did we say, 18 days in a month? Or was it less than that? What did I just
do? I think you did 19.
Okay, that's about $445 an hour, which is really, really strong for our areas, because we're talking about Milwaukee, which is a second level type city market. We're talking about 8 of our attorneys are down in Illinois. A couple associates in there, so really 6 senior associates and above down in Illinois. We've got small markets like Appleton, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, that sort of stuff. So that's a really, really good hourly rate, and that's collected. Okay. So most family law firms that bill hourly are pretty happy if they're collecting north of 80% of what they bill. The really strong firms are collecting 97, 98, 99%. So we might be.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, you don't. So you're talking about an hourly rate of almost 450, and you're not dealing with the issue that many other firms deal with, working on an hourly rate where they're struggling to collect, where they're I guess billing by the hour and then I've heard stories where firms don't even send out bills for like 60 days after the work is done, and then they don't wind up collecting. So these are issues that I guess on a fixed fee model that you don't even have to worry about.
We collect around 97% of what we quote bill out. So we do have some breakage in there a little bit, and it comes generally on stage 3 cases when they get into stage 3, and it just, we get into trial stuff and we end up not collecting a little bit. So some of that does happen even with a fixed fee model. The average attorney in our firm handles about 40 cases at one time. Now, some are certainly less than that, and some are more than that, depending on their experience, their capacity, what they want. We don't force clients or attorneys to take cases. We don't force attorneys to take any clients. They can decline any client they want. So, but it averages out to about 40, and the turnover on that is about 2.5 a year, meaning about 100 cases in a year. So, 40 would turn. So an average case is, let's call it 6 months long, or maybe a little less than that, actually, if you're going to get a turnover of 2.5 a year. But we also, that lumps in all of those small cases, like they could be a one-time court appearance for $1,500 or $2,000 or something. They could be a 1-hour, $450 coaching session. So those cases obviously are over within a day. And so those turn over much quicker. But the average attorney will do about 100 different cases in a year. And any one time they're holding 40 files. Full rep files take at least 6 months to turn over. Some go 1.5 years, right? It depends on the complexity of it and so forth.
Okay, so I guess that's another good question, which I think you just answered, but I'll clarify. So the average duration of a full-scale divorce case, somewhere around 6 months. Because I think we talked about this before, where you said about, again, talking in averages here, about half will finish in like that stage 1 120-day period, and then a little bit less than half finish in stage 2, and a very small percentage actually wind up going to trial.
Right. The rough math, and I'm not great with remembering numbers off the top of my head with exact details, so I'm going to give you ballpark stuff, and ballpark I can remember. So about half of all of our full rep cases conclude in that first stage, which is about 6 months. It's a little less depending on what state and what county. Sometimes we'll have 5 months. Sometimes we'll have a little longer than 6 months, but it's about 6 months, okay? And then about 46% ish in that ballpark go into stage 2, and they conclude in the fall. Now that stage 2 is a little longer, typically 7 to 8 months for stage 2,
right? And
they'll conclude within that. Now they can conclude 3 months into that, right? They can conclude a month. They could go the full distance in that. It really varies. And then if about 3 or 4% of our cases will actually go into stage 3. Now, that doesn't mean they go to trial. Half of those will even see a trial, right? Half of those 4%. So it's about 2% that actually go to trial. So 4% will get in that stage, and then they'll require more negotiation, more work, and then sometimes they'll settle on the courthouse steps the day of trial. They just didn't actually make it into trial. So that happens a little bit as well.
Do you ever get pushback? So you said like that stage 2 period is longer, right? It's from the 4-month mark up till the 12-month mark. Do you ever get pushback from clients who like pay the stage 2 fee and then it resolves like 5 weeks later, 6 weeks later?
Yes, of course. And in those cases, we'll refund sometimes on those a portion. It really is fact specific, and it's not. Then we bring in the managing partner and they'll look at it and they'll decide whether or not we've earned the fee. But that doesn't happen as much as you might think. A lot of times clients and lawyer will kind of sense that their case is close to settlement. So we'll give them we'll break that stage 2 fee up, and they'll pay like a quarter of it for a month, and then another quarter for another month, and then another quarter for that month. And then that last quarter carries them through the rest of the entire stage. We've tried a whole bunch of different scenarios to try to allow for cases that are close to settlement, where it's not really reasonable to charge the client $8,000 for what we know is maybe 1 or 2 kind of dangling issues that are still out there and unresolved. So we do break it up a little bit. But here's the important key. You got to do that in advance. I mean, you can't, you just can't, you don't want to get a situation where you settle 6 weeks later and then now you're fighting with the client on the refund, because you could earn that fee in that 6 months if you're spending just, a ton of time trying to get them settled before a certain court event happens or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. So that's really cool so what do you chalk that up to, that your average billing rate is so high, and that you're able to have such a good collection rate? Is it just that your attorneys are really efficient? Is it that they're like pushing cases along really quickly? Is it the support staff? maybe it's all the above, but
I think it's all the above. But here's the greater part of it. Whenever you go to fixed fee, you align up with the client. The client wants the case over, the attorney wants the case over, they want to earn the fee. So there's something magical that happens when you're aligned with your client. Okay, so that's the one factor that goes into it. Secondly, when you're hourly versus fixed fee, you practice differently. So under hourly, you can afford to be passive. You can let the court drive the agenda, the opposing party, the opposing client, your client drive the agenda. You don't have to. You can just react. And so that extends cases. Whenever you're in fixed fee, you have to be proactive in order to get it to work. Okay. Because the client will demand it. They may not say it outright, but they demand it because they don't want to pay that next stage fee. So they want you to do everything you can to get it over. And the attorney feels it probably more than the client. They feel that pressure to get the case moving so they've earned their fee within that stage. And if they have to ask for that next stage fee, the client will see they've done everything they can to resolve the case. Also, we try to unhitch our attorneys' thinking from hourly to value. So if you can think of value delivered, that makes, and that's what the client wants. They just want value. They don't necessarily want hours. They want value. So that's an important mindset shift to go through, is to think of it in terms of delivering value versus delivering hours. Now, we all know it as trading hours for time, but if you can change the conversation to value, it works better for everyone involved, the client, the lawyer, the firm, and so forth. Also, because of the fixed fee nature, is lawyers are not feeling pressure to be the ones that do all of the work. They can delegate. They're free to delegate at that point. And whenever you can delegate that work to someone that is commanding less of an hourly rate, you can, if you get really good at the delegation, then you can just fly. I mean, that attorney in our firm that collects north of $100,000 a month, she's just extremely efficient. She's extremely good at delegating. She's got a full team that's working to support her, some of which are in the Philippines that do a lot of the drafting for her. She's got obviously her paralegal here in the US. So that her motivation is to finish the case out. So what the clients want more than anything is they want to be out of court. They don't want to be in the court system. They want to be out. They may not say, hey, I want out, but that's the burning desire they have outside of telling their story to someone. They want to be out of the court system. And so to them, that's where the value is at. She cycles through cases so quick, and clients really like that. So all those factors really converge, I think, to make fixed fee, I think I would contend, so much more efficient than hourly. The flip side of that is that it's harder to sell. You're asking for bigger amounts of money up front. But the hardest of all of that is changing the thinking and the mindset of the lawyers, because that's the culture. And they're going up against lawyers who are very reactive, very passive. They're not going to push cases through. And so you're the one constantly pushing the rock up the hill. And for some, that can be exhausting. It's not how they want to do their career. And they're more than happy to go back and do hourly because it's more comfortable. It's more knowable. Everyone understands trading time for money.
Right. And I think I've heard you mention this before, not with me, on a different podcast. I don't know if you tried this or if it was just like an idea in your head, or if you knew other people that were doing this, rather than like, there's kind of like a middle ground in between your hourly and your fixed fee, where you're asking for that large amount up front, where it's like a monthly fixed fee. Was this you? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you might have just mentioned it off the cuff. Rather than, hey, stage 1 is $6,000 and stage 2 is, $10,000. It's just, we're going to charge you every month. On the first of every month, you're going to pay us $1,500. And I think that math kind of turns out right. And the case, we're going to play the same game. We're going to push it forward. We're going to do everything we can to make things speedy. And so what are your thoughts on the pros and cons of that?
Well, it's a different version of an hourly. It's a longer time period at that point, right? So we've never formally done that. And believe me, we've debated it ad nauseum. Should we switch over that? Because it's an easier model to bill on. It's certainly an easier model to sell on, but it does diminish the fee certainty that we're trying to give the clients, because now it's just, instead of an hourly thing, now it's just monthly, and you're talking about a different time span versus selling an hour. Now you're just selling a month. And we're trying to sell 6 months, which is another version of that, right? These are all variations on the continuum, right? So we've just really stuck tenaciously as you know what, let's try to give as much fee certainty as we can and put pressure on us to resolve the case. So am I going to tell you, Tom, that we're never going to try that and test that? Yeah, we probably will at some point. When we open up new markets, we're thinking about even testing hourly again, just to see if that's an easier sale, because it's so difficult to sell. Well, we're thinking of it mainly as a second brand under our name. And we want to do acquisitions. And we know that if we go into, let's say we go into Texas, which we're kind of thinking about. And so if we go into Texas, it's going to be tough for us to buy an hourly firm and then convert them to fixed fee. That's going to be really tough to change their culture and their thinking and their practice habits. We'll probably turn over all the attorneys. And at that point, what's the point of buying their practice? We could open up, and we can certainly, and we have done that. And that's a slower way to grow. Be faster to do acquisitions. So we're thinking about what that might look like in our system to have a second brand. So like if we bought Hartin Family Law, for example, and you were hourly, let's make it up, right? What would that look like? So probably too much more than you asked about there, but that's where we're at.
No, that's interesting thinking. And I'll sell to you right now for $3 million. Just kidding.
Three times revenue. All right. So
yeah. Let me get my calculator. No, that's really cool, and that's all. I think that answers my question. I think we might have touched on how many active cases at a time, and I remembered it being about 40, and I've heard that from other attorneys too, for like between 30 and 50. So 40 sounds right on. Yeah, your adjusted hourly rate is really impressive. Yeah, I've been now that I have a little more free time, that I'm not working my other job full time anymore. I've been playing around with the numbers and how I'm going to handle cases when they come in. The trickier part on my end, and maybe we can save this for another episode, but I've gotten, let's say, like 3 calls I've gotten that were like serious calls that could have potentially turned into clients. Only one of them was like a full scale divorce case, and the other 2 were like child custody issues. So yeah, I wasn't sure how to like fully, price that on a fixed fee. And I was just trying to guess in my head. One of them seemed like really limited scope. She, had supervised visitation, and she wanted to move it to unsupervised. And they basically had a meeting. I don't know maybe I skipped this one before. She had a meeting upcoming at the opposing counsel's office somewhere in like the middle of September. And just, wanted somebody there to like help fight for her. And I was like, all right, in my head, I could probably, do like 4 hours of research, figured, the meeting will be like an hour or 2. Maybe I charge, somewhere in the area of like $1,500 to $2,000 for that. But, I don't know, as things get more. And then, you just have to define the scope of the agreement. It starts, I'm going to put in X amount of research, and this, this agreement only goes up till the end of the meeting. And if, you want more after that, then we discuss it. So yeah, it gets a little more complicated. Whereas in hourly, I'm just like, here's my rate. Here's what I'll collect as a retainer. I, expect it to be this amount, but if it goes more, I'm going to charge you more. So I don't know. I guess before when we were talking about hourly, I was like, I'm a family lawyer, but majority of cases are, divorces. But I don't know, maybe that's not the case.
Well, I can tell you that those post-judgment cases you're talking about are much more difficult to quote than a divorce case or a paternity case, because you're not able to rely on a set cadence of how the case is going to unfold, because they go bunch of directions. Yeah,
so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm starting out with some kind of a hybrid where if it's, I'm using the fixed fee for the full scale divorce cases, but if something comes in the door like that, maybe I go hourly. I don't know.
I think if you're going to go fixed fee, I think you just go. You don't try to like blend it. I don't know. I like just burning the ships and going after it. You learn quicker.
Yeah, that's true.
And just charge more. I mean, people are going to choose you less for your fee than they're going to choose you for other things. Whether or not you listen to them, you connected with them, things like that are more important.
Right.
And just learning how to explain the value. You just got to beat on that. That's just salesmanship is what that is.
Yeah.
Helping them see the value of fixed fee versus hourly.
Right. And yeah, I think that's why I'm hoping to get most of my consults in person, especially now that my office looks halfway decent. And we'll see it on the next podcast. I'll be there.
Oh, love it. Can't wait.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. I think this is good. Let's break for today and catch up next week or the week after. And you're going to be in Disney next week, so we're going to do it maybe 2 weeks. We'll catch up and see what's happening. Are you going to have your phone on when you're down in Disney? You're going to turn off your ad?
Yes, I have. So I've officially now set up, I've talked about this, set up my Apple Watch so that my phone. So I have a dual SIM on my phone. So it has my primary line and my business line. Only my business line is now relayed to my watch.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I will, as long as I'm not like on a ride with my kids or something, I will answer the phone. I'm not going to be doing a full intake while I'm on vacation with my kids, but it'll be, quick introduction, and let me take down your name and telephone number and email address, and I'll give you a call back in a few hours. So
yeah. Good. All right. It's exciting. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, Jeff.
Right.
Talk to you in 2 weeks if I make it.
All right. See ya.